And so we're podcasting after dark. I've got a lemon liqueur, so cheers. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 165 of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today is Tuesday. Yes, I'm still way out of whack from my routine that I had established in November of last year. And if you're feeling the same way, it's okay. We'll get back to things eventually, or maybe it's a sign that our schedule just needs to adjust. But anyway, I don't know what day it is. I'm pretty sure it's Tuesday. Actually, I'm confident that it's Tuesday now. It's Tuesday, January 16th, I think, and I've got lots of project progress to show you today. What else do we have? I'm going to be answering some more questions. I'm going to be updating you on the goals and things that I have been working on that are some knitting related, some organizing related, and I'm excited to share that. It's a lovely cloudy day here in New York City. The morning started out sunny, which was awesome because we haven't really seen the sun in a while. And then in the early afternoon, it started shifting into a cloudy day, which I do love a cloudy day. Don't get me wrong. It is probably one of my favorites because we can just open up all the windows and it's lovely. But I was enjoying seeing the sun there for a second. I am wearing, excuse my creaky chair, my goodness. I am wearing one of my favorite items that is not available, which I hate to do this to you again, but I don't know. When you see something on Spreadshop, grab it because they don't keep everything around for long. It's like a hoodie, t-shirt. I actually love this one so much that I emailed them about it and asked if they were going to ever bring it back. And they said they don't have any plans for that right now. So but I don't want to get rid of it. I want to keep wearing it because it's my absolute favorite and I wear it at least once a week, I think. All right, with that being said, I think it's time to dive right into my first project. First up is my boxy. So this is the Lace and Fade Boxy by Joji Locatelli. I'm using 2 yarns from the Little Wolf Knits. This one is her Sunfish base, which is 75/25, and it is called Too Good to Eat from the Donut Collection. And this one is a Surrey base, and it is called Apple Cider. I don't have labels for this yarn. So you might be wondering, wow, it's looking very almost finished. Where are the needles? Let me explain. First, actually, I'll share what my progress has been since last week. So I added on a sleeve. I don't remember, one of these I had already finished and then I did the other one. They're really short and I have to warn you, they're really tiny, like really small. And I know they're just meant to go right here, but I'm having a hard time with mine getting it on. We're going to do a try on here in a second and see if things have changed with blocking, but I would at this point maybe recommend going up 2 sizes in the sleeves, maybe 1 to 2 sizes. And I don't know if this just has to do with the fact that I chose to make a smaller size and in the body, and therefore my sleeves are hitting higher up than they really should be, where the lower down the sleeve is usually the skinnier your arm is. But I'm having fit issues a little bit with the sleeves. They're tight, they're not unwearable, not enough to redo them. I don't really know what you would do at this point because you can't make the armhole any bigger without totally redoing the sweater. So yeah, I would maybe take a look at those schematics if you're making this sweater and think about adding on to the depth of the armhole. This is a really easy thing to do. You can just knit your normal size, the instructions for your normal body size, but then when you get to the sleeve schematic, usually, or at least in this pattern, it says knit to X number of inches for that sleeve part. And you can just go to the next size on that or the following size. So for example, if it says work 4 inches for the sleeve depth for your size, you would maybe go to the next size that says 4.5 inches and just add that on. Then when you go over to the sleeve instructions and it tells you how many stitches to pick up, just make sure you're also following the next size up so that you can pick up the right number of stitches. So I actually went up one sleeve size from the body size that I'm doing, and I'm still getting that tightness. So just wanted to warn you in case it wasn't just me, in case it's a something just to look out for the pattern. So I have blocked this. I think you can really tell actually, like looking at it draping and everything on the screen. So I have worked, I think I was somewhere in this last lace section when we spoke last. So I really haven't done all that much on it. That's because I've spent the last few days kind of hemming and hawing over it. Oh, and working on the sleeve. That's what I did. But I wanted to make sure that this was going to be the right length for me. And so I have done something in the past. This is just a more recent thing in the last maybe 6 months. I think it was when I was doing my Rhinebeck sweaters. I was having fit issues. Oh, maybe it was last year's Rhinebeck sweaters. I don't know, but I did not come up with this concept on my own. Basically, it's taking your sweater off of the needles and blocking it mid-project to see how it's fitting. I have really, this has really helped me with a lot of things, even though I think the last time I did it on my Alpenglow, I still didn't quite get there. I needed a little bit more length and I fixed it later, but I'm trying to avoid things like that. So I have taken my sweater off of the needles and it is on barber cords, also known as try-it-on tubing. So you'll see there's a lot of extra tubing here off the side, so I don't have any danger of my stitches coming off. So basically I transferred everything over to the barber cords, pulled out the needles completely. If you're ever using barber cords to try things on, take them all the way onto your stitches and get your needles out of there. You do not want to try on your sweater when the barber cords are still attached to the needles. That's when they're going to pop off. So make sure you have barber cords completely out the end of your stitches. Please, please, I'm begging you. And also you have to keep your stitches stretched out. You kind of have to do it as you go. I find it really sticky. It's not the greatest solution, I think. I use them, but I'm not as into them as some other people are, but they are really useful for blocking. So stitches are all transferred. Then I took off all of my stitch markers. I actually found one after I soaked it and it was fine, but you don't want to leave metal sitting on there while your sweater is drying because it could turn the color of the yarn or rust on it, even in a short time, which is unfortunate. So that's it. And then I just blocked the sweater in water. So I have my yarn still here in the bucket bag. And I basically just had the whole sweater submerged in water. And then the yarn was just sitting next to the tub that I was soaking it in, feeding into here because I didn't want to cut my yarn. And of course, I wouldn't want to submerge my yarn. There would be no purpose in that and it would take forever to dry. And then I just squeezed it out with a towel and then I've had it laying and drying for the last 36 hours or so, and I am ready to do a try on. So the whole purpose of this is that I want to try it on before I start the ribbing. If it's not long enough, then I have a few options to make it longer before starting the ribbing. But if I just went through with the pattern as planned, there was a potential that it would be too short for me or my preferences. So I'm at the point now, actually I might be a little bit past that, where the pattern tells me stop knitting stockinette, start knitting ribbing for the bottom band. But the pattern also says, knit to X number of inches for the body or until you are, however long the ribbing is away from your desired length. And so this is the best way to find out with it actually blocked. And with a lace sweater, I figured the lace would drop some and the stockinette would too. It didn't drop as much as I thought, honestly. I guess maybe because it's Surrey and not mohair, it didn't stretch quite as much. But that's okay. So now I'm gonna know. So I have put on, for you and for me, I have put on jeans because this is what I'm gonna be wearing when I wear the sweater. I've put on my jeans, I have 3 pairs of jeans, and these are the ones that the waistband is in the middle. They're not super low, they're not super high. So I figured this will be a good way to try on the sweater to see if it's going to be hitting me where I want. So I'm gonna go throw this thing on and we are gonna find out together if it is a good fit. Okay, coming in. All right, I need to adjust this a little bit. But let's see. I want to get my shoulder seams actually like on top of my shoulders so that all that's lining up. The sleeves, they're tight. And that's also affecting me being able to pull this up all the way. I really think the sleeves are supposed to be hitting more down here. And so it's probably kind of my fault for selecting a body size that is like has less positive ease than my bust measurement said for me to choose. So basically my bust measurement told me to knit a size 2 and I didn't want that much positive ease, so I knit a size 1, which obviously this fits plenty good and fine, but it also makes this part come in further, whereas maybe if I had an extra inch or two, the body would come out to here, the sleeve would start here, and it would come down further. That's something that I did not keep in mind. So I don't know if I'm just gonna leave the sleeves like this, or if maybe I should add a little bit to it. They do look a little funny at the length that they're at, but I also think they might look even funnier if I do them longer. So let me know what you think. Right now I don't have anything on except obviously a bra underneath this, but I'll probably wear a camisole, maybe. Why not? Okay, so let's take a look at the length, getting further and further away so that you can see with jeans. It is supposed to be cropped, and it is cropped. And then there's going to be 1.25 inches of ribbing on here. So keep that in mind. Here's how it's looking. Bring this with me. And then compare this to how it looked before blocking. I have a photo here that you can see. So it's definitely dropped down some, especially I took a picture of the back of it and it was coming up like a lot higher. So blocking just really helped to get that down. So I don't know, I'm gonna have to look at it in the mirror, but let me know what you think. If it's ready for ribbing or not. So I have a couple options here if I do want to make it a little bit longer. And again, it's supposed to be cropped, but that doesn't really matter. What matters most is, like, I think when knitting and crocheting your own sweaters, is making a fit that you like. And why else do we knit and crochet except to like make things that flatter us the best or that we enjoy wearing the best? This has taken me many years to like figure out, and obviously I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think it's worth taking the time to do that. So, okay, I have a couple options. I can start the ribbing now and it will be that length. I can add a few more rows of stockinette here, like these stockinette sections, and it will, you know, just to make it a little bit longer, then start the ribbing. I can make the ribbing a little bit longer, which is probably something I'm not going to explore because I don't want the ribbing to be too different from the sleeves. I do know I have a friend who made this, Bethany, and she decided to add length by adding a full section. I don't know if it was a full stockinette section, but she added another lace repeat, little stockinette, and then did the ribbing if you need a lot more length, just in case you're knitting this sweater. I don't think that's going to be the case for me. I don't think I need quite that much length. So yeah, I'll have to go look in the mirror and see, do I need to add a little more stockinette before I start the ribbing or not? And then I will be putting this back onto the needles and going from there. I am disappointed in the sleeves, honestly. I don't know exactly what I want to do, because right now I think they look a little funny. I wonder if they even need to be, I don't know, shorter. They're in that like really awkward spot where they're practically in the crook of my elbow, and I'd rather them be past that or maybe even shorter, but I don't know if that's the right look. Here, let me back up again. I don't know if that's the right look for this or not. I guess if I kind of scrunch them, that's kind of cute, right? I almost feel like if this is, it's not, it's right at like my waistband. But when I get that ribbing on it, let's see. When I get that ribbing on it, it's gonna be 1.25 inches. So not much. Like right here. Oh wait, but that's me. That was me looking down. See, this is why you have to do an actual try on. Because if I'm looking down, look where my sweater goes. But when I'm actually standing up straight, man, we're all learning something today. Okay, looking down, holding it, standing up. So that's probably barely gonna get me to my pants. So I don't know. I kind of like this length because I think it is flattering. And again, I could wear a tank top and like tuck it in all the way around my jeans. And so then I'm covered, I feel comfortable, but I can also have this line that I think looks nice and flattering. Okay, without getting all tangled up, I'm about to roll over this. I'm gonna switch out of this and we'll move on to the next project. Next up, I have my Advent socks from Mint Rain Hand-Dyed Yarns. Actually, let's show that label first. So these are Advent 2022 socks that I started on December 25th, and I finished the first sock. So there wasn't much left on this sock here, just a little bit of the foot and the toe. However, it took me a while to do this because I kept messing up on the toe. So the first problem was I did the toe, I got all the way to the end, I was going to graft it, and I ended up with 4 stitches on, like 4 more stitches on one needle than the other. So after I did that, I had to frog it back. So I used my, basically it's like picking up stitches for an afterthought heel. You just go through and you pick up the right leg of each stitch. I did that all the way down back where I had just like plain stockinette, because what I needed to do was rearrange my stitches before starting the toe. There wasn't a great way to fix it like right up there at the top. So I picked up all those stitches around, ripped things out, and re-knit the toe. And I also had a couple of issues there because it was late at night. I should have not been doing that, and kind of started off the decreases wrong and everything, but I finally got it done and got it grafted, and sock number 1 is done and it fits nicely. Little New York City ambiance here with our ambulance. We'll just wait it out, I guess. Okay, back onto the next thing. I started the second sock of these Advent socks, and I am just now working on the leg. So this sock is a pattern that I am working on. I am potentially going to be writing it up and testing it sometime in the near future, but I am tentatively calling these my tall and stripy socks because I wanted something really tall, a simple pattern that was good for self-striping yarn. And I have socks like this that I made many, many years ago, but they needed some adjustments as far as fit because they were too tight in certain parts. So I am working through how to adjust that and then like write it and communicate it. So it is going quite nicely. The other thing I want to include in this pattern is how to manage stripes, because that can be kind of tricky too. So for example, for these socks, because I wanted to know exactly where I started each one, I kept my tails of where I started the sock. So instead of knitting over it, which is what I would normally do, I kept it out. And that way, when I went to start the second sock, I could also leave a tail and see pretty close that I'm starting in the same place. Instead of like, sometimes I'll leave a really long tail, sometimes I'll leave a shorter tail. I didn't get them exactly matched up. I definitely could have done a better job here, but they're pretty close, and that will give me socks that are pretty much the same. And then down here, you can see I had to manage where to put in my heel. So I had to waste a little bit of yarn, and I will be, it's looped right now, but I'll be cutting it and weaving in the ends. But I want to kind of compare when I do my second sock and see how that goes. And anyway, I'm trying to, this is a relatively simple stitch pattern, but I'm trying to think of the things that make a sock really fit well and are very useful and informative to have that would be included in this pattern. So I am working on that, and by working on it, I mean I'm knitting the second sample, and then I'll have to get some more self-striping yarn so I can knit these again. I want to do it on, this is not a 4-ply yarn, and my other ones are on a 4-ply yarn. This is a 2-ply yarn, which is not something that I, of course, pick the color that's really close to your skin. There we go. I don't know if you can see that. It's a 2-ply yarn. Can you see it? It's still trying to focus on my face. Anyway, I want to knit these in a base that I think of more typically for socks too, to like set the gauge and everything. So this is the process of pattern writing, or writing a pattern that has a lot of details in it, and it's going to take me a while, so it will come when it comes, but that's what this is. It's not a pattern that is out there, not at least specifically. There is one similar that's out there, but the stitch pattern is different and several other things are different. So I am working on this, and someday it will be born. All right, next up, oh, you know what I didn't say about this sock issue that I had? The reason why I had the toe issue. So just in case you're like, wait, you never told us why you had that problem. So I like to sometimes do a little bit of a decrease here after the heel to make the foot fit better. Because a lot of times, especially with a pattern sock, I don't need as many stitches on my foot as I do on my leg, so I'll do a couple of decreases. So I did the decreases on 1/2 of the sock, and that meant that I had 4 more stitches on the top than I did on the bottom. I forgot about that. I forgot to arrange my stitches, or rearrange my stitches to an even number before I started the toe. So that's what happened. Okay, if you're a sock knitter, that will make sense. If not, don't worry about it. It's not a huge deal and not something you normally have to contend with socks. Okay, I want to show you my blanket. Oh, it's way over here. Hold on. All my things for my blanket. All right, so I have been diligently working every single day on my granny stripe blanket. You can find all my notes for how I have adapted this pattern, which is the Granny Stripe Blanket by Lucy of Attic 24. Mine is in fingering weight, and the original pattern is in DK. So the original pattern too has several blog posts that go with it. I would definitely recommend looking through those. You kind of have to take your time to go through them, but they have, Lucy has put up photo tutorials of how to start the blanket, of how to do the blanket, of how to weave in the ends. I found that somewhere. It's not in the same blog post, but like doing my research a few years ago, I found it. So please look through those things. If you're making this blanket, there's lots of helpful tips in there. And then for help converting it to fingering weight, the notes that are on my project page should hopefully get you there. All right, so over the last week, I have worked from my cake marker that I just put in. I don't keep this in the blanket because I do find it gets in the way, but just to show where I was last week at this pink, and then I have gone up from there. So most of these yarns are coming from my swap that I did in the Love and Stitches membership a few years ago. My swap partner hand wound these center pull balls, just amazing, and labeled each and every one of them. They're super beautiful. And the way that I am picking out what color to work on next is I just close my eyes, I have Kent close his eyes, and he pulls one of the yarns out of here, and then I put it into the blanket. Of course, if I pull something that's too similar, I might say redraw, but that's pretty much how we have been doing it. So let's see. Most of them are from that swap, so they're just scraps, random scraps that were not mine, leftovers from somebody else. But these 2 yarns I added in from recently completed projects. So both of these are Sockmas 2022 yarns from Mandy's Makings that I added in with the leftovers from my socks that I made in December for Sockmas. I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Somebody else said, hey, make sure before you give that sock yarn away, because I had a lot left over. I think I had 70 grams of each one. Make sure you put it into your blanket. So funny. I'm so appreciative of that person that said that, because my whole intent, like long ago, was to use this blanket like where I would finish a project, put the yarn into this blanket, and then get rid of the scrap, like whether I divide it up or put it in another item or give it to somebody to do that. So like first line of defense on the scraps would be putting it in the blanket, and I just totally forgot about that. So I have marked my last where I finished with Advent, and I know from this marker, this one stays in there, that I need to do 26 stripes. And where are we at now? Hang on, let me count real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from 6 from last week, and then 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I'm at 13. So I'm halfway. Oh my gosh. I'm halfway through my goal for the month, which is to finish this blanket. So I have, I don't know, probably close to 13 in here, but I think not quite. So probably what will happen is when I finish my boxy, that yarn will also go in there, not the Serle, just the fingering weight yarn. I don't think I will put this yarn in there. I don't really like how self-striping looks in here. It doesn't look bad, it just looks different, and I think the eye is drawn to different. I think what makes these blankets work so well sometimes is just everything kind of blends. I know I have a self-striping in here somewhere. I'm trying to find it. Oh, here we go. So this self-striping I think actually works okay because it's only like 4 colors, whereas that would be a lot. So there you go. You see the green, red, blue, green, or red, green, red, blue, red, green, red, blue. Right there in the middle, that's a self-striping. And it just so happened that it lined up on top of each other, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I didn't really add much self-striping in here because I didn't care for the way that that looked with my other yarn. So now you kind of see what it looks like. You can decide if that is right for you. We're gonna talk more about this blanket in the questions segment. So stay tuned if you have more questions about it. They might get answered today. All right, get that out of the way for now. One last quick thing. I did work a teensy little bit on my Musselburgh hat this week. So this is a Musselburgh by Isolde Teague that I have adapted to be mostly ribbing. The yarn I'm using is Suburban Stitcher Sock in the color Reunited, which was her fall, that didn't stay up for very long, did it? Sorry. This was her fall 2022 show colorway. So you could get it at Cake, at Rhinebeck, you could get it at DFW Fiberfest, and then maybe some trunk shows. But I have this project just sitting, hibernating basically, and I only pull it out to work on when I have absolutely nothing else to bring with me somewhere where I'm out and about, where I am going to be knitting in the dark, or if I just really need a palette cleanser. So yesterday we went to see a movie and I didn't have my boxy, wasn't on the needles, or that would have been a good thing to bring. My socks are not something I can do in the dark. And of course my crochet blanket is way too big, plus I can't crochet in the dark. So none of that was gonna work. So I brought my Musselburgh to the movies. I did about 3/4 of an inch. My arms were hurting, I think because I knit so much this weekend, and so I put it away and that was that. So it barely had any work done on it, but that is there just resting, and I learned that it's okay to have a backup project that's not a focus whip that can just sit and you can linger and you don't have to worry about finishing it. And yeah, that's a new thing for me, to just be okay with that project just being there. All right, that is it. Oh, I did want to share, sorry. I guess I should share a little bit more about the actual details of this. So I am making this one to be mostly ribbing with stockinette on one side. So when this hat folds up together, it will have ribbing ribbing brim, and then the other side will be stockinette crown, ribbing brim. But I learned from my stars hat that it was a little short. So this one I am making as long as one of my other Musselburgh hats that I love. I have a lot of Musselburgh hats. If you look at my project page and just search for Musselburgh, you'll see all of them. And I try to include the measurements. So this one is going to be 19 inches from crown to crown. So where those crown, you can see where it's like stockinette right here, where these crown increases end to where the next ones begin is 19 inches, and 13.5 inches will be rib, and I guess that leaves 5.5 to be stockinette. That's my plan for now. It's in my project page so that I don't forget. I had to look that up before. But yeah, I'm not even really that close to that right now, so nothing to worry about. All right, let's move on to some questions. These questions come from the last episode, episode 164. So if you have a question for me that you would like for me to answer in next week's episode, make sure to leave a comment down below. At the beginning of that, put #question, and that will clue me in to look out for your comment and make sure to answer it. I've got 5 questions that I am going to answer here today. So let's pull up the first one. This question is from Lavender Cottage Fiber Arts podcast. It says, I am so impressed by people who can knit in the dark. Do you ever use a neck light at the cinema? I feel like that would bother other people. Or do you ever notice lots of drop stitches and mistakes when the lights come back on? Any tips for becoming better at knitting without looking at your work? Yes, I do have some tips, and I love being able to knit in the dark and being able to knit while reading, being able to knit while walking, but I will tell you that these all came in stages. So if you're feeling frustrated with yourself for not being able to do this right now, take the pressure off. It's okay. It's going to take time. So the best way I think to get started with this is to start by practicing at home on something simple. The simplest thing you can think of, stockinette stitch in the round. The reason I say stockinette stitch in the round is because it is one stitch over and over, knitting, 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 and you don't have to turn the row. You just can keep going round and round and round. The only thing you're really going to have to feel for is maybe that marker where it marks the beginning of your round, but that's something that's you're usually able to tactilely feel, so that's a good place to start. So the way I would start is just be knitting, and then for one stitch, like look away, like just look up. Or maybe don't even start there. Maybe start by kind of like squinting your eyes so you can't fully see. Most of us can, once we've been knitting, I would say for 6 months to a year, it really isn't a time thing, like as far as how much time has passed, but it's more about how much you've put into it. If you've knit many, many, many hours, your body, your muscles, in your mind, they actually know what to do. It's just that we can't trust it, so you have to start small. So maybe squint your eyes, or maybe start by looking away for a stitch. If you work a stitch and it just falls off the needles, then you can stop, you can fix it. I guess I would say this too. If you can't fix your knitting, maybe don't do it yet. But then you can fix it and it's fine. Eventually you're gonna get to the point where you can work a full stitch without having to look at it, including inserting the needle into the stitch, wrapping the stitch however you do, and pulling it through and putting it on to the next one. And then of course from there you build on it. You do a couple of stitches. Then maybe you watch a movie at home and you like dim the lights. It doesn't have to be completely dark. I mean, in the movies, I am able to sometimes see my knitting in certain scenes, and I do sometimes check it when the light comes up. Like if there's a brighter scene, I'm like, let me just make sure that I did that correctly. So it is not a completely, or my eyes are completely closed the entire time that I'm knitting. So start at home with a couple of stitches and practice. And then as you feel more comfortable, then really try to knit for a whole movie without really looking down at it. And go slow and be kind to yourself as you're learning to do that. But yeah, once you're ready to take this out into public, I have another tip for you. So I've definitely knit in the movies and then realized later that I had a mistake. But what happens more often is that as I'm knitting at the movies, I feel myself make a mistake in the moment. Like I know that I've slipped a stitch and it didn't actually get knit, or I dropped something and I'm just not going to be able to fix that. So again, something that I learned from someone else is to bring a backup project. So instead of just having one project that's stockinette in the round, maybe have a second one. The easiest way I think to do this is to have a pair of socks that are both on the needles. So they're both in that like stockinette tube section, whether it's the leg or the foot. And you can just work on one. If you feel something happen that you can't just like quickly fix without looking at it, then you can pull your other sock out or your other project out, and you have a backup and you can go from there. So those are my tips for you for knitting at the movies. And I did see that you asked about using a neck light. I definitely would discourage you from using a neck light in the movies. It would definitely be a distraction. I mean, imagine just somebody's phone lighting up, how distracting that is when you're in the movie. The neck lights are really bright. And the problem with those is that when you're looking down at your knitting, they work fine because the light is shining down. But as soon as you look up, you'll know this if you sat across from somebody that's wearing a neck light, it shines right in your face. So it would shine right out into the people in front of you and it would be way too bright. I tried this one time and I turned on like one side of my neck light and Kent was just like, absolutely not. No, turn that off. So I would not do that. That's one way to, I think, maybe get kicked out of the movies. So hopefully those tips help. Okay, this question is from Megan Cole. I have so many crochet whips and am feeling a little overwhelmed. I love to organize and decided to try your method of using a notebook to project plan. So my question is, what size of notebook do you use? All right, so I have my notebook right here. And I want to tell you about this too. It wasn't part of the question, but I am very excited about my new thing. So let's measure it. I think, where did I get this notebook from? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. This one might just be from Target maybe. So it looks like it is 8¼ inches in length, which is 21 centimeters. And it is 6 inches in width, which is 15 centimeters. So 8¼ by 6 is the cover size. The pages are a little bit smaller and mine is just lined. I think it's like wide lined, and it works great for me. I really like project planning this way. I take a lot of notes sometimes this way when I'm doing things or like planning things out. Sometimes the brainstorming process does better for me on paper. One tip I have for you, again, these are not questions you asked, but just it made me think of things. I leave the first page, I usually don't even write it at all. In the very beginning, I put my name, phone number, and email in case I lose my notebook so someone could return it to me if they were kind enough and saw that. But I leave the first couple of pages blank so that I can put an index in here. As I'm writing things in, I will number the bottom whenever I start like a new thing. So let's say I'm trying to find my yarn in and out, but I don't know what page it's on. I can look right here, and it says my October yarn in and out is on page 3. I mean, that's about it. This notebook isn't very full, but once it starts to fill up, it's really helpful to have this. So then I can just flip here to page 3. Here's my October yarn in and out, my October project plans, and it's just really easy for me to find things. Last thing, this is something new that I just got. It is a stretchy, it has, I'm trying to cover up, it has an elastic, and it fits notebooks, I think, bigger than this. I'll link it down below, but it is a zippered pouch for pins. I'm trying to simplify and like take things off my desk, and I realized that I only use a couple of different colors of pins, and I have a whole container of them on my desk. So I figured I'd give this a try. So it's just a little zipper pouch, and I can hold I can probably hold 3 pins, but I have 2 pins in here now, and I can also put my lip gloss in there, which I like to always have on hand. So I love that for my notebook. It also fits on like an iPad. You can put a stylus in there, and it was a great find. There's so many different sizes on Amazon, something that I didn't even know, like a product I didn't even know that I needed to have until I was looking for it. Next question is from Miss Shizuka 08. And this says, during Vlogmas, I kept wondering where your couch in your living room is from. I also live in a small space and it seems like that couch serves you well. You know what? We got this question a lot during Vlogmas, whether it was in comments or I got DMs about it or I got emails about it. So I tried to answer them, but I know I didn't get to them all. So if you're curious, our couch is from Living Spaces, which we got it in Texas, but you can order from them online. I will just warn you, it takes a really long time for things to get there because we bought the couch from the store. It was in stock. We got our rug and from the same place, and I think the size we needed wasn't in stock, and it took months and months and months to get to us. Granted, this was back in 2021 when there was a lot of issues with especially like furniture supply chain things, so it might be different now, but just a heads up with that. But yeah, so we love this couch. I will say it's not the most comfortable couch I've ever had. It is comfortable and way more comfortable than like where we first started was maybe some like IKEA couches or like the trendier kind of couches that a lot of people have here, which are like the 2-seater leather ones. I'm not knocking those at all, but we wanted something that was comfortable enough to sit on all the time, comfortable enough for somebody to sleep on. So the cool thing about this couch is that it pulls out into a bed, but not one of those that like flips out with the springs in the mattress that's like this thin. It's another part of the couch and it's very comfortable. Sorry, got an itch. It's very comfortable to sleep on. Kent and I have slept there many of nights when we have guests that we have stay in our bedroom, and it's great. And it's also perfect for putting your feet up at night, which we do all of the time. It also has storage in it. Yes, so it's a great couch. It's called Dante. It's from Living Spaces, and I'll make sure to link it in the description box. Question 4 is from Katie. I'm wondering how much the scrappy blanket weighs. I'm wondering if it would work well as a weighted blanket or not. Okay, so I had to figure this out because I did not know. I mean, the blanket feels pretty heavy to me because I keep folding it up every day to put it away, but I also have a weighted blanket, and I think the weighted blanket that I have is 15 pounds. So I knew it wasn't that heavy because I also like to use a weighted blanket. When I sleep, I feel like it helps me sleep. When I'm feeling anxious, I feel like it calms me down and just makes me feel safe and comforted. So I totally get the weighted blanket thing. So yeah, I stepped on the scale and then picked my blanket up, stepped on the scale again to see how much it weighed. The reason I didn't do it on my smaller scales, my yarn scales, is I just didn't think it was going to work. But after doing that, I found out that the blanket right now weighs 3.3 pounds. So it is a pretty heavy blanket. I think it has, the potential to be comforting in a similar way to a weighted blanket, but it's not quite that heavy. So if you're looking for something kind of medium to light, honestly, it does a really good job. And I love the blanket. Toaster loves this blanket. My brother was using this blanket when we were visiting my parents. I feel like it already has that kind of comforting, magical properties to it. So maybe with some adjustments or some DK weight yarn, you could definitely make it into a heavier weight blanket and fit that weighted blanket need. All right, the last question also related to the blanket. This is from Karen. Do you hand wash the big blanket or machine wash the blanket? Okay, great question. So I haven't washed it yet because it's not done, and I usually don't wash things until they're done. I guess, except for my sweater that I showed on this episode. So this blanket is huge. It is right now 60 inches wide, and it's going to be 80 inches long. I'm guessing we're like within 12 inches of that right now. So it's big. And here's the thing. I don't remember all of the yarns that I put in here. I don't remember if they're all superwash. I don't remember if I tried to actively avoid putting in yarns that are hand wash, but I just don't really see it being practical for me to hand wash this blanket. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that I have a way to lay it out to dry or even hang it. Even if I could hang it, I think it would stretch this thing out really badly. So I think the only real practical way to go about this, if I could go back in time, I would make sure to put only superwash yarns in there. So again, if you're making one of these, be careful with the materials that you put in and try to make it washable. But from here forward, I think the best thing for me might be to just wash it on the gentle cycle or the hand wash cycle, cold water, and see what happens, honestly. And if something gets felted, then I can cut out a row and crochet this thing back together. I honestly think that's what I'm gonna do. I was talking to my friend Amy about it, and I was like, she asked me the same question, and I was like, I think it's just gonna be survival of the fittest here. I'm gonna wash it. I'm not gonna obviously wash it hard, but I'm gonna wash it. If anything shrinks or felts, I can just snip and rejoin it together. Okay, let me know what you think I should do, because I know that's maybe not the smartest way to go about things. So if you have any practical suggestions for me on how to wash this massive blanket, I will definitely take them. If you have any questions for me and you want me to answer them next week, make sure you leave a comment down below, #question at the beginning, so that I can make sure to see it. Okay, welcome back. It has actually been a few hours and it is now dark outside, but I've got my lights out and we're gonna carry on. What that means is that you just get more fresh energy, and so we're podcasting after dark. I've got a lemon liqueur, so cheers. We're gonna get rolling again with our last few segments. Yum, nothing beats the first sip of sparkling water. It tastes really good for like half the can, right? And then the rest is like not as good. Try to drink it as fast as possible for that reason. So I had an appointment to get my eyebrows waxed, my monthly appointment. So I went and did that. And then I went to Pilates. So I don't think you can tell I'm wearing a tank top underneath. Just wanted to explain in case you're like, wow, things look really different. That's what happened, the passage of time. But we're gonna move on into the news segment. Okay, everything looking okay? I tried to get my lighting as good as possible. It's hard here in New York City apartments. Most of them don't have overhead lighting, so we have to rely on lamps. You can see we have like a lighting strip back there, and I've got out my umbrella lights that I haven't used in a long time. Okay, so the new video this week is my scrap-free 2023 part number 1. So originally when I set out to create this video, I knew, honestly, I feel like I knew since at least maybe the middle of last year, that for 2023, I was going to focus on using up my scraps, using up my mini skeins, and it's just been in my head for so long. I'm so excited to actually be implementing it. But with my goal of eliminating stash last year, meaning everything that was a 100-gram full skein, I didn't want to load too much on myself or like get off the track, if you will. So I'm finally ready to start on Scrap Free 2023, which is what I'm calling it. I love that it rhymes. And scraps is kind of a loose term. It includes mini skeins, but also leftovers. But I wanted to put this together in a video to kick things off, just like I did for the eliminating my stash last year, and then I did video updates along the way. So that way you can come in and follow the journey throughout the whole year, no matter what video you start with. As I was working on things, there was a couple of factors. The light outside, because the sun is still setting around 4:30, was setting on me, and it was taking me a lot longer than I thought to actually get everything organized. If you've seen the video, you've seen everything laid out on the bed. I had a lot more scraps than I remembered. And then also I wasn't ready yet to pick out my projects. So I decided about when I've wrapped up the video for that day that was going to be the halfway point and that we would come back next week. So Scrap Free 2023 Part 1 includes getting all my scraps together and organizing them. I share with you a lot of my thought process on why I'm doing what I'm doing. So if you're looking to just use scraps, use stash, whatever you're looking to do, it should be helpful in some way. In the next week, I'm going to talk about my actual plans for my scrappy projects, what I'm planning to use, what I'm planning to not use a little bit more. I talk about it a little bit in that one, but I'll go in a little more detail. And then I also want to share like just some strategies for using your mini skeins that are different than maybe actually knitting or crocheting with them in like their own projects. So I have lots to share in that video that's coming up next week. The last thing is that Vogue Knitting Live is coming up very quickly. It's here in New York City, February 9th through the 12th, 2023. I am going to be there taking classes. I'm going to be there shopping. I'm going to all of the events that they offered in the ticket, like the ticketed events. So Hades Town on Thursday night, I think is the cocktail hour on Friday and the dinner on Saturday. Honestly, I just kind of wait until we're closer to the time to actually look into details. So I will be there for all of that. I'm not planning any types of meetups or anything, but if you see me, please come up and say hi. I would love to meet you, take a picture, whatever, and just get to know some of you. So I'm very excited for my very first Vogue Knitting Live, and if you have any tips for me, I would much appreciate you leaving them in the comments down below. This past week, we did a couple of fun things, aside from working and being at home and everything. So on Tuesday night, we went to a Dallas Stars hockey game. They were playing in Long Island. They were playing the Islanders. And so Kent and I took the train. Oh no, actually, yes, we took a train and a bus out there, and is that what we did? Now I'm trying to remember. We did something different than we did last year when we went to this game. But anyway, we went to the game and it was a lot of fun. It's a super nice arena, but I will say I was shocked that the water was $7.99. So we went thirsty for a very long time because we were not paying that much for a water bottle. And yeah, I guess if we were like outside and it was 100 degrees, I would cave, but we were not gonna do that. But anyway, we had fun at the game. The Stars won. We wore our lucky hats, as I'm going to call them, because the Stars have gone 3-0 when Kent and I have worn our Dallas Stars Musselburgh hats. So yeah, I'm calling them lucky now. And Kent went to a game later that week here in Manhattan when they played the Rangers, and he didn't wear the hat and they lost. So I'm telling you, not really a superstitious person, but I like to think that these hats are lucky, especially the journey that I went on to knit them. So that was fun that I got to wear them again. Also at the game, the mascot came up to us twice. One time he sat down, or up to our section rather. One time he sat down next to Kent, and I was surprised that the mascot came over to fans of the opposing team, because we were both wearing jerseys for the Stars, the opposing team, and came and like sat next to us and like poured popcorn in our mouths, and it was just really funny. And we later found out that the person, I think it was a he, yeah, I think they said he, but the people behind us were like, oh yeah, that's our friend. So that was kind of funny and cool to see all of that happening. And then over the weekend, on actually early Friday afternoon, I took the train out to New Jersey to my friend Amy's house, who I've been to a few times before. This time we were joined by two more friends, Brianna and Veronica, and we had a grand weekend of basically just knitting and eating and having some drinks, and we just really enjoyed our time together. I wish we had had one more like full day, because when you're traveling out there, that day is kind of a little bit of stress. And then we had all day Saturday to just absolutely relax. It was amazing. And then Sunday, we're like, oh, we gotta go home and everything. So maybe we'll have to do it on a long weekend the next time. But I really enjoyed myself, and I got a lot of my projects done. I packed up this little pouch that I usually just keep my crochet hook in so I don't lose it for my granny stripe blanket, and I put 3 little like balls that I would need for the granny stripe blanket, so I didn't have to bring all of them in the big Ziploc here. So I just randomly picked 3 out before I left. popped them in here, and that covered me for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday while I was there. So I thought that was kind of clever. I don't know, it's not really that clever, but I tried to be limited on what I brought for the weekend. We also, Kent and I, when I came back into Manhattan, we saw Avatar last night, and I was surprised it was, well, I guess I'm not surprised it's still in theaters, but I didn't realize it came out a month ago, and so we went to see it still in IMAX in 3D. I'm not a huge 3D fan, but for Kent, it was really important to see it in that format. He was grateful that it was still playing in that format in our theater, and he has really good memories of seeing the first Avatar movie that way. I haven't seen the first Avatar since I saw it in theaters 10 years ago, so I really didn't remember that much, and I also wasn't like super into it, but I thought this movie was really good. I knew it was a long one. It's 3 hours and 12 minutes, I think, but I don't think that's right because our movie start time was 6:30. The previews play for 30 minutes, so it really started at 7, and we got out of there at 10. So I don't know. I feel like it was a little less than that, but maybe the previews weren't as long as I actually remember. I did bring knitting. Like I mentioned, I brought my hat. I just didn't knit on it very much because my arms were aching, I think, from all that knitting I did over the weekend with my friends. And also sometimes when I am already like fatigued and then I try to use 16-inch circular needles, or I don't use 9-inch circular needles anymore, but especially when I was using those, I would just get like that bad kind of fatigue. I don't know. I feel like you can tell, like it just really is uncomfortable and sore. You feel like you can't like grip your hands. That's when I know to stop. Probably before that, but I know to stop. That's when it started bothering me. And so I just sat and I kind of did some stretches during the movie, but mostly just sat and watched and enjoyed. So I would recommend Avatar if you haven't seen it yet. I feel like it is going to be out for a while just because of the caliber of movie and what they're expecting it to do. I think it's already, well, obviously it's probably one of the best movies of the year because it's only mid-January, but I think it's doing really, really well. And Kit and I love going to the movies, so that was fun. And then the last thing that's new this week is we have started taking family walks at lunchtime. So what that looks like is that Kent and I take Toaster out together. That's not something that we normally do. So Kent, I was about to say Kent needs to go out 4 times a day. Toaster needs to go out 3 to 4 times a day. We usually take him out 4 times a day. And Kent and I split that responsibility because we have to take him on the elevator, downstairs, walk around the block in order for him to go outside. We're happy to do it. It's just a little bit, like minimum 10 minutes if Toaster's fast and the elevator isn't slow, which is totally fine. But it does, as you can see, if you add it all up together, take up a good part of the day. So usually I take Toaster in the morning and right before lunch, and then Kent takes Toaster out before dinner, and then before he goes to bed, because he goes to bed late, so that Toaster's covered for the whole entire day. But we kind of realized, especially with the winter, and it's been pretty gloomy here, that it's a good idea to like get outside for longer. And like for Kent, he wasn't getting outside during the day at all because he wasn't taking, if we didn't have anywhere to go, he wasn't taking Toaster out until it was already dark outside. So family walks. At lunchtime, we're taking Toaster out together. Toaster loves it. He loses his mind in a good way when Kent and I both take him out. So it's actually very cute. So we're going out together. We're going around our entire block, which is, well, we're almost going around the entire block pretty much, which is longer than we normally take him because in the center of our block, we actually have a park where I usually cut through. So it's been good for all of us. It's been good for Toaster because he gets a little more walking time. Same for me. It's been good for Kent because he gets to get out during the day, get some vitamin D. So yeah, we've been trying to do that daily as we can. All right, I have been reading Still Up a Storm. It's the 3rd week of the year and I'm on my 3rd book. This is not something I'm doing on purpose. I just keep reading books that I'm really into and finishing them quickly, and they're not super long books, I don't think. I don't know. I'm not a fast reader, so I feel like they must not be long. But I did finish In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle, or Serle. I still didn't look up how to say her last name. But I was devouring the book. There is a tough subject in the book that I recommend you maybe look up before reading it. I don't want to say it because it doesn't become apparent until the middle of the book, so I feel like it's also a spoiler, but just please maybe look that up before reading the book. I thought it was really, really good up until the end. I was actually disappointed at the end of the book. I finished it almost a week ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly how I felt now, but some things I really liked about it is that it was set in New York City, so I knew a lot of the different things they were referring to and neighborhoods. The main character was somebody around my age, so I really connected with that. Going through life decisions that I really connected with too. And yeah, it was just a good book. I think that's pretty much like the theme of all the books that I've been reading lately, just by happenstance. So I really do enjoy that. But the ending, yeah, I wish there was a little bit more in there. So if you've seen the book and want to share your thoughts in the comments, just please do that in a spoiler-free way. Be vague. Be vague, because I hate getting things ruined, especially when I don't know what I'm trying to say. When I'm enjoying them, I hate getting things ruined. That takes away some of the joy in reading things. So I then didn't have any books on my queue. I didn't want to, I read the first 2 books of the year for the Love and Stitches book club. So I've already read January and February's book. So I don't want to read March because I will be way too far ahead. And I've actually already read our March book. So I'll probably be less stressed to really worry about reading that like exactly in the right time frame. So I just started scrolling through my app. I use Overdrive to borrow books from the library, even though Overdrive is about to be replaced by Libby. I just can't bring myself to use Libby because when Libby was first introduced, I didn't have a good experience with it. I just found it really hard to use. So I'm waiting until the last minute to switch over to Libby, which I know is not the right decision, but it's the decision that I keep making, so oh well. But anyway, so I was just scrolling through, and for each of the libraries that I belong to on there, if you just go to the home page, it will tell you books that are available right now. So the thing about borrowing books from the library, whether digital or not, is you may want to read something, but there is probably a wait list. If you want to read it, it's very common that other people want to read it too, so you have to wait. And so I was like, there's nothing that I just have to read right now. Let me just see what's available. I looked at a couple different things and I ended up settling on a book called Meet Me in the Margins by Melissa Ferguson. The cool thing is you can read a little sample to see if it's a writing style that you like, and you can of course read the description of the book. So this is a book about a young woman. I can't remember what age she is. I think probably a little younger than me, but also still that same theme of a person coming of age, growing into themselves. And I didn't know this until I started reading it, but it's set in Nashville, which my family is from Nashville. We just visited them in Nashville. So I think that's really interesting. I read a book about New York, and then I read a book set in Nashville just by chance. So this is about a character. What's her name? They don't say her name a lot. I'm halfway done with the book. I don't know the main character's name. It doesn't matter. She's there, and she is an editor at a publishing company, and she is also trying to write a book. So it is interesting. I think it's a romance. There's only been tension so far, and not any kind of explicit romance, but maybe that's coming. I don't know. So it's been good. The only thing I will say is I'm not super into maybe it's called a trope. I don't know. I know trope is a word that's in people who read a lot. I'm trying to learn more about this, but it's the person that she's attracted to is also, and you meet them right away, so hopefully this isn't giving too much away, but the person that she's attracted to is her boss and like has that power struggle, and he's kind of like mean and condescending to her, and that's not really attractive. I think most people would not feel like super into that. I get that it creates tension, but there was a couple of scenes that made me cringe a little bit, but overall it's a good book and I'm enjoying it, and I am excited to see what happens for the main character whose name I can't remember. So that's Meet Me in the Margins by Melissa Ferguson. We've been watching The Circle on Netflix. I don't know what season we're on, but they're all great and I love The Circle and I couldn't recommend it more. It is a reality show, I think, for everybody. Even if you don't like reality TV, it is wholesome but also spicy, and it's just so much fun. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. And then of course we saw Avatar this week. All right, that brings me to my last segment, which is my goals. So many of you in the comments last week recommended me calling this section intentions. And I think that I was thinking about that and I wasn't so keen on intentions because, or maybe that was aspirations, where it felt like that's not something I'm actually going to do, whereas intentions is different. Someone said that the word intention is a more gentle form of the word goal, which allows for more flexibility. And that's exactly what I want. So I think intentions is where we're going to settle on for this. So I have 3 intentions for the month of January: a personal one, a business one, and a knitting/yarny one. I say that because this month it's actually a crochet goal. So let's talk about the personal goal first. This one is to declutter for 30 minutes 4 times a week. And the way that I'm managing to remember this is I have time blocks put into my Google Calendar, because Google Calendar is what I use to keep track of like personal appointments and also all of my business stuff. So I hear an ambulance. Sorry. Distraction. Okay, I don't know. Hopefully it's not too loud, but so I just put 4 time blocks a week for the whole month of January. I was able to set that up just as a recurring thing. They're all in there at like, I think I have them at 4 o'clock every single day. And then as my day actually progresses, I can like shift them and move them around. For example, today, because I needed to come home and finish the podcast, I actually moved today's block all the way to Friday because I don't need to do it today. I just want to do the decluttering 4 times a week. So that's been working great. I was able to do 3 out of 4 times last week. And so I feel really, really good about that. The first thing that I decluttered this week is I decided to continue in the bathroom and work on our medicine cabinets. So this one actually took me 2 days, even a little bit longer than that, because I had some things I wanted to get set up. So here's a before of the medicine cabinet that is behind our like the sink. So that's a small medicine cabinet. So in there, I was able to change to not really get rid of a lot. That was already pretty pared down, but I did rearrange some things. Something that was giving me a lot of problems was my makeup being there, because I would like open the mirror, get my makeup, close the mirror, put on that thing, open the mirror, get the next piece of makeup. So I've moved that to a different medicine cabinet that I'll explain in a minute. But yeah, it just helped me resolve some problems. And then I also was able to set up these things. This is a toothpaste dispenser. We just put these in, so I'm really not sure exactly if they're going to be great or not. But I have had these, hold on. I have had these for, I think, a year, and I've just been putting off actually putting them there. We've been using glass containers, like glass cups, to put our toothpaste and toothbrushes in since we've lived here, and we've lived here for 2 years in April it'll be. So yeah. But anyway, so I've got these all set up, and that's why it took a while too, is because I needed to put the little sticky things on, leave them for 24 hours, and then reset up everything. But if you're interested, I will try to find these and link them. I also had hooks for our toothbrushes. So my intention with decluttering is mostly just to pull things out, get rid of the things I'm not using, and put them back in an organized way. Not really like find more organizational things during this period of time because that's kind of what takes up more time, but I already had these things. So here is the after of what that cabinet looks like. It's already so much better and so much more functional, and Kent actually has a little more space. I was kind of intruding into all of his spaces. For every shelf that Kent has, for every drawer that Kent has, I have 2 more because I just have more things for the most part. So yeah, I gave him back a little bit of space there. Then I moved on to our larger medicine cabinet. You can see the before here. I actually did these 2 medicine cabinets together. So that's why they kind of took 2 days. I just pulled everything out, started, and then continued the next day. But this one is a almost a full-length mirror, basically. You can't get far enough away from it to really see yourself, but it's actually pretty awesome. I love medicine cabinets. I never thought that I would. I've never had them before. This one in particular, it's the best because you can have all your products in a single layer and they're just right there. So this one I did get rid of a couple things and moved some things that didn't belong in there. And then I also asked Kent what spaces he needed, and I moved all the things that I need the most up on eye level for me. Kent said he would take the top shelf because he's taller and he can easily get up there. He already had that shelf, but I kind of cleaned some things off for him. And then I put all the things that I use second most right below that. And then the lower 2, I put things that we don't need quite as much. And then I did buy one new organizational thing that solved a problem for me. And it is this thing right here for makeup. This is all my makeup except for a little blush thing that doesn't really fit perfectly in here. But I was having an issue not only with the makeup being behind the mirror that I was using to put my makeup on, but also it just rolling and moving everywhere. I had some containers that would hold my makeup horizontally, but I really wanted it to be upright and vertical so that all of the actual makeup would fall to the bottom and actually pump out or actually be in there when I dip the mascara wand in. So enter this. This is a little, it stands up. It's a little cup. It's kind of that, I don't know, hard material here. And it's got inside, it's actually made for makeup brushes, but I put my actual makeup in here. It's got little elastics that you're not gonna be able to see, but just trust me. It's got little elastics to hold all of my things in place and upright. And then my largest thing I just have plopped there in the middle. But if you roll it up, it has a zipper and it folds in here. Let's see if I can get it to go. So that it zips completely closed. And then now I can take this when I travel. So there are all kinds of different ones like this on Amazon. I'll link this one, of course. It's pretty small. I don't have a ton of makeup. And again, it's really meant for makeup brushes. But I feel like if you're somebody who is constantly, maybe you share a bathroom and you constantly, then you just roll this down and it will set out. You need to do your makeup in another room. You need to do your makeup in the car. Whatever it is, I feel like this is a pretty sleek solution. I also like now that I can just grab it from the shelf and set it on the counter while I'm doing my makeup in the morning and then just set it back away. And then also when I'm traveling, I expect that it will be great that I can just grab it, set it on the counter, use it, and then put it away. So I'm pretty pleased with this little solution. I just got that in the mail when I got back from the weekend, so I actually didn't get to take it with me to my friends to try it out, but I am pretty darn excited. So here's the after of, I love organizing, in case you can't tell, but here's the after of that medicine cabinet. And again, these 2 cabinets took me 2 days to work on. For the last day, I decided to go into a space that I knew I could do in 30 minutes. I'm basically kind of avoiding a bigger spaces like my clothes and kitchen for right now. I'm working my way up to them. But this is the area above our washer dryer that has a lot of cleaning supplies in it. So here's before, and you're not going to see a huge difference in this space, but I did get rid of a lot of empty bottles that I was using for making my own cleaners that I no longer use. And then I found a lot of things that I am not using currently and I would not rebuy, but they're good products and I want to use them up rather than just throw them away. So I found a lot of Clorox wipes that we had during like moving in the pandemic that I never reach for to clean, but I can use them and go ahead and use them up. And so they won't go dry, they won't go to waste. So some other things, like I think I found some borax. I bought a bunch of stuff to make, to do that thing where you put all your clothes in the tub and you like do laundry stripping. It didn't work for me. I know it works for some people, but it just didn't work. And so I have all that stuff. So I'm going to be intentional about using that stuff up so that it can be, used and not just thrown away. And now I know it's there. And actually it served me tonight because little toaster, who's over here, decided to throw up in the hallway. And so I knew right where my disinfectant spray was and was able to clean that right up. So here's the after. Again, not a huge difference before and after, but it's always nice to see, go through everything and know it's there and get it more organized. So oh, and I found one more thing. Oh my gosh, see, this is actually, it's crazy just how much 30 minutes a day is making a big difference. 30 minutes 4 times a week. I found another, like a bathroom hand soap. What is it called? Not the pump, but like the whole thing. Just a hand soap thing, a glass hand soap thing. And ours, the pump has been broken for a few months. It's like broken where it only does like a half pump. So instead of just doing a pump for your hands, you have to kind of like do the pump, like pull it back up and do the pump again. It's just broken. And so that was great. I pulled that out. We have started using that and we're never been more grateful for a fully functioning hand soap pump. We really don't need the other one because in our other home, we had 3 bathrooms and a sink, kitchen sink. So we had 4 sinks and here we only have a bathroom sink and a kitchen sink. So we're going to recycle that other one and use the one that is working. Anyway, so that was great. Okay, my business intention is to work on bookkeeping 4 times a week for 30 minutes. Again, same thing, I have it in my calendar. This one I was also able to hit 3 out of 4 times. The first day that I started on it, I was completely overwhelmed. And so I just told myself, all you have to do is 30 minutes. I set a timer. I'm like, all you have to do is 30 minutes, just one line at a time. You're not trying to finish today, you're just trying to work on it. And now I've gotten it down to a reasonable place for my banking stuff. I think I've gotten it down to all that I have left in there. It's 1 page of things, 1 page of transactions, just things that I have to ask my accountant for help with because I don't understand how to track it. So my next task as I continue doing this over the next week is to move on to all my PayPal stuff, which if you are a business or you take payments through PayPal, you have a lot of little transactions. And so I'm gonna have a lot to work on there. But again, slowly but surely, I think I can get it done eventually before tax time. That's the goal. So that's going great and I'm going to continue that. My last one is my Yarny intention, and that is to work for 30 minutes a day for 30 days on my granny stripe blanket. I have a tracker that I can show you here that shows all of my completed days. I did do this pretty much every day. There was one day that I actually started my stripe for the day at 10 o'clock at night and I didn't finish it that day. So instead I finished it the next day and then did that day's stripe, so 2 in a day. But I just decided I'm not going to be that hard on myself and I still get a little granny for my granny stripe blanket each of those days because I did enough stripes for all of the days. What I also realized when I was looking at the tracker is that I'm really not doing 30 minutes a day. I'm doing a stripe a day. So I need to adjust my goal because even though I'm saying 30 minutes a day in my mind, I'm telling myself a stripe a day is what I want to do. And a stripe really takes me an hour. Each row takes half an hour. So a stripe is 2 rows, takes an hour. So I need to adjust that and just tell myself that it's okay that the goal is a stripe a day and be realistic for that. But the 30 minutes a day for 30 days comes from 30 for 30, which is a make-along we're doing in the membership this month. So it's all going well, and I think what we figured out earlier was 13 stripes left on the blanket, right? That's kind of wild. I'm totally gonna be sad when it's done, but I'll be ready to replace it with another fabulous scrappy project. So I can't wait to share that with you next week. All right, thank you so much for watching this episode. Thanks for going with me from daytime to podcasting after dark. Leave a question down below with the hashtag question if you have one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.